Oh, that was a beautiful segue from Huey Lewis and the News into Albinoni's Adagio. Although, did Albinoni actually compose it? There's a lot of people who say he didn't. Anyway, doesn't matter.
I think we're talking about Huey Lewis. He composed that as well.
Yeah, Huey Lewis definitely did stuck with you. Today's confession comes from Marty. Marty says, Simon and the assembled collective, this tale takes me back to when I was a high school student in the United States of America. In the mid-1980s, I worked as a pizza delivery boy for the only pizza place in town. The establishment was pretty casual, cash in hand, of course, and paid only if we did actual deliveries. No workers' details were taken or written. There wasn't even a rota. But myself, like some of my friends, did not have anything better to do in the evening, so whenever I had access to the family car in the evenings, I'd be there in the pizza place trying to earn some pocket money and chat with the other guys. Now, while most nights there were too many of us delivery boys, there was one exception. This was New Year's Eve. Demand-wise, of course, New Year's Eve was a very busy evening with many orders coming in from many lazy party organisers. However, many of my fellow delivery workers had better things to do that night, as you can imagine. Not me, though. To anyone who asked, I explained that all these parties and alcohol and cheap romance and midnight kissing wasn't for me. It's also arbitrary, I explained. Whoever decided that at the specific date the old year ends and the new one starts, it's a very stupid concept. Of course, the sad truth was I'd have been very happy to go to a party, especially the one fancy party many of my friends were invited to. But the problem was, on that specific year, the party organisers had a very strict precondition: couples only. Ugh. And for me, it seemed such an unrealistic prospect that I didn't even bother to ask any girls. Better deliver pizzas than being rejected by girls who were out of my league anyway, I thought. So New Year's Eve arrives and I work the night. As predicted, there was no lack of work. Coming back from one of my earlier rounds, the shift manager was waving to me for some of the distance. Quick, we have a big delivery to the other side of town. This party ordered 10... I've forgotten to do the accent. This party ordered 10 large family pizza trays. Wow, so 10? So predicting a hefty tip, I took the 10 trays to my car. Just when I was about to go on my way, the manager came rushing by, remembering his accent, and he said, "Hey, this one's on your way. Drop it up first, and then take the rest of the party."
Party?
Yeah. He said, "Give me the address of the..." Yes.
You're going to do all of them now. He's America as well.
As you can guess, this extra tray was the source of all my trouble. Whoever ordered the pizza turned out to live in a very busy area where it was not easy to find parking. Even the best of days was difficult, and on that partying night, it was just impossible. Despairing, I thought of skipping this delivery altogether and to go straight for the bigger order, but then I saw a possible solution. In one of the street corners, there was an empty private parking space, clearly marked as private. It even had a barrier, the one that goes up and down like a level crossing. For some reason, the barrier was up, though, leaving the parking open. I waited for about a minute to check if someone was coming in, but nobody was. My lucky night, I thought. All I needed was 2 minutes to deliver one pizza. So when I drove to this private parking lot like a mouse into a trap, 2 minutes later, delivering one pizza, I came back rushing to my car to find to my horror that, of course, the barrier was down and I was locked. There was no way out for my car. I started looking around for the owner of that parking space. It took me some time and some inquiries with the neighbours to realise which house this private parking space belonged to. And eventually I knocked on the door. A big, hairy, muscular guy with an intimidating look opened the door. "Yeah," he said. "Well, look, mate, I'm ever so sorry, but I parked in your space by mistake." "By mistake?" he roared. And, of course, came a long rant about young people and poor education and disrespect, no driving skills. I kept apologising and explaining, but he refused to even discuss opening the barrier. "I will not open that barrier, even if it takes months or years." This wasn't good news for me because I still had 10 pieces to deliver and my mother needed the car to go to work the next day. In my despair, I came up with the only solution I could think of. "I have some pizzas," I told him. "I can give you them as a compensation." "Pizzas?" he repeated, indifferent at first, but then interested. "How many do you have?" For some reason, and I don't know why, I said 4. Anyway, that's what I said. He went, he gave me a long look. "Okay, bring me the 4 pizzas and I will let you out. But if you do it again, don't think so." I quickly ran to the car, took 4 trays of pizza, brought them to the hungry monster, and after he checked them carefully, he softened a bit and let me out. I drove from there as fast as I could before he could see I had more pizzas in the car. Now, here I had some big decisions to make. I could, of course, finish the delivery. I go to the party which ordered the pizzas and bring them 6 instead of the 10. I could return to the pizza delivery place to take 4 more, but I was already on a next strike and you're out with the pizza boss because of previous late deliveries. So I went with my third option. I went to the party of my friends, me and my pizzas. Although I still didn't meet the prerequisite female date companion condition. Knowing my friends, I thought they may be flexible regarding this requirement. In return of that, what I brought them was free 6 trays of pizzas.
Yeah.
Did I have a girl? No. Did I have 6 trays of pizzas? Yes, I did. And so I got in after short negotiations. I even got a telephone number from an actual girl, which turned out to be a fake, but still it was a start. I didn't return to the pizza delivery place after that, and in fact did not go near that part of town for fear of meeting the pizza monster. Father Simon, it's not from the pizza place owner I asked forgiveness. He was a terrible employer who made terrible pizzas, and I cannot complain about anything because he was a model of unprofessionalism to everybody. Of course, I do not ask forgiveness for the private parking hungry owner who was overcompensated, if anything, by my trespassing. But I do ask forgiveness from the party organisers who may have relied their whole party menu on the 10 pizzas that never came because they only got the 6. Anyway, I thought I got away with the accent thing. I forgot briefly, but I think I might
It
be.
was there. Yeah.
The thought was there, and then I did do Pizza Monster. But anyway, Sister Holly, who we haven't heard from as a voice of justice and righteousness for a while, but here she goes.
Well, it was a complete disaster, wasn't it, really? Parking in a space which he wasn't supposed to park in the first place. I'm sure he could have found somewhere. That's not some private parking space. And I'm not surprised the chap was a little bit annoyed about that. He did get the pizzas, but obviously then caused chaos as that party who wanted 10 pizzas didn't get them at all. And then you just didn't turn up for work after that because of all of everything that happened. Really not good. A disastrous night. What a bad way to start the new year.
Yes.
And that's why I'm not forgiving at all.
Do you have private parking outside your place?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we have a garage.
There you go. Which is kind of the same thing.
I knew it.
Brother Matthew.
I'm going to forgive. Number one, delivering pizza by car sounds like quite a lot of faff. Thank goodness we invented the moped and all of those and the scooters and everything else. Also, who holds a party where only couples can come?
Yeah, what
that
was
feels
that?
very wrong. And who's this girl who's giving him his number? She presumably came with someone. Sounds like something else is going on there. Maybe it wasn't quite as clear cut as it appeared at first sight with your 6 pizzas. So maybe something else was going on that I've not yet. Whatever it was.
Yeah.
But for all of those reasons, manifold as they are, and
Yes.
because Dolly Parton's about to kick off, I'm going to forgive.
61054, first word is Simon. But just before the news, a confession from Marty, which was all about his failure as a pizza delivery guy. Can he get into a party without a woman? Yes, he can.
Yes.
If he has 6 pizzas, probably cold, to give away. The verdicts are in.
Forgiven, says Josh in Macclesfield. I feel sorry for Marty. He was just trying to do his job and was desperate to find a parking space. That space owner sounded awful. Ricky in Derby, though, says not forgiven. What about the party that had ordered 10 pizzas? I'd be so annoyed if I'd ordered them and they never arrived. But Steve in New Brighton says forgiven. I live on a road that's often difficult to park on, and I always feel sorry for delivery drivers. A driver has to do what a driver has to do.
Steve is very understanding, I think. Thank you very much for all the verdicts. Thank you for the confession. Send yours, please, to confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk. It's 5:47, Greatest Hits Radio. Send your confession, please, to confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk. And there is the music blending perfectly into the Paul Young arrangement by popular demand. Today's confession, we'll give it a slight PG, I think a little bit of a PG.
That's always
Okay,
good.
just because it's a little bit like that.
Okay.
Very specific, I think.
Yeah.
We'll say this comes from Graham. Thank you, Graham. Father Simon and the Holy Collective. Let's call it the Holly Collective.
Oh.
My confession takes place from an event only a few weeks ago.
Oh.
And it involves a smart speaker, a strategically placed bedroom window, and the ever-elusive truth of a prank gone wonderfully, annoyingly wrong. You see, my sister decided that she needed a holiday, a well-deserved break for her, her 2 kids, and her partner, James. Naturally, I was entrusted with house-sitting duties. Feed the fish, feed the cat. Do not feed the fish to the cat.
No.
Never do that. Wise words. I thought it would be funny to play a little prank. Now, I have to say, I didn't know that this kind of thing was technically possible. But late one night, I addressed the smart speaker. Let's call it Alexa, for example. And I set Alexa to announce, James needs a poo, every time the front doorbell was pressed. I chuckled to myself and forgot all about it.
That's good.
I think the key thing there is from Gray, where he says, late one night. I wonder why.
Yeah.
So my sister returned, all was well. The pets were plump, the sheets were pristine. A few days later, a message popped up on my phone. How the hell do I delete it? It's annoying now. I asked innocently, I don't know what you mean. What is it? Her reply was a torrent of capitalization and exasperation, a bit like Donald Trump when he types a message on Truth Social. Yes, you do! Exclamation mark. Every time someone rings the bell, my Alexa tells everybody that James needs a poo, and it's only you that would have done that. End of capitals. She admitted it was funny at first, but her Alexa was stationed by her bedroom window, directly above the front door. So every guest, every delivery person, every unexpected visitor was greeted by a disembodied voice from above, James needs a poo. The postman had heard it so many times, he's taken to saying, you can try prunes, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
But seriously, how do I delete it? My sister pleaded. And honestly, I had no idea. I'd forgotten about the prank myself. I suggested that she ask Alexa to stop.
Yeah.
But the device was uncooperative. It won't let me delete it. I keep asking her to, and she goes, I don't know how to help you with that. As funny as it was to me hearing my prank, I genuinely tried to help. I poked through the app, searching custom notifications, but my mind remained a blank slate. I couldn't even remember setting it up in the first place. And here is where my confession takes a turn, because my sister went on to mention that she had told her friend Amanda, my brother has done this and I don't know how to stop it. Amanda, my sister recounted, just laughed. No piece of advice, no hint of surprise, just a laugh. A rather suspicious laugh, like Dick Dastardly. And it was here that something clicked. Amanda, you see, was also well known for her silly pranks. And I had simply presumed that I was the culprit because my sister had said, it's only you that would have done that. And yes, it does sound like something I might have done. But maybe, just maybe, it wasn't me after all. My sister, looking back, noted Amanda's laugh was a little cold, a little odd, almost as though she was relieved to have gotten away with something. In all honesty, Father Simon, I'm still not even sure. I'm not sure if it is me who should be asking for forgiveness or if I should be seeking forgiveness for someone else's mischievous deed. I guess in the grand scheme of things, we shall never truly know. However, James does still need a poo.
Oh, right.
How much cider has Graham consumed for him not to remember actually setting this up in the first place? So that key phrase when he said late one night, I set up this thing. I think he'd been on his sister's booze.
Yes.
He'd gone to the drinks cupboard.
Oh, yeah.
And he'd helped himself. And, I mean, what a state to get into, Graham, that you can't remember whether this was your prank or not. Anyway, it's obviously not up to me. I'm just the impartial
That's
arbiter.
so true. Yeah.
Just moderating between harsh Holly and lax Brother Matthew. So let's see where we go. Holly, first of all, what do you think?
Well, as you say, who forgets a prank that they've done? I just find that ridiculous. But even if you didn't do this prank, Graham, which I suspect you did.
I think you did.
But even if you didn't, the fact that you think that it's acceptable to fiddle around with someone's smart speaker and change it to something so immature and gross and disgusting is it's sick and wrong, as I say.
It is.
And
that's so true.
And it's just not good. Just let's keep it classy in future, guys. And so that's why I'm not forgiving at all.
Sick and wrong, I'd forgotten that, but I suppose there's an element of truth in this particular one. But what if James actually does
Need a poo?
Yes.
Every time the doorbell rings. Maybe it's like, one of those
Pavlov's
experiments.
dog.
Pavlov's dog. Where every time the doorbell goes, James feels
Maybe
the need.
maybe there's some truth, but also Graham is just drinking a lot, I think.
Yes. Yeah, I think he is. I mean, fair play to him because he managed to, I don't know how he changed the settings on those smart speakers, and he's done it after, several rounds of cider. And maybe he didn't do it, so, we can't judge him for that. That's what we're doing. But anyway, I'm going to forgive because, it's very difficult to do, and it's very funny, and this is why I don't get to house it any time because I would definitely do this myself. So, yes, definitely forgiven.
The smart speaker that you get for having your confession read out, whether you can program it to say things.
Oh, wouldn't that be amazing?
That would be quite funny.
Pre-program it.
Confessions at greatesthitsradio.co.uk is where you send your confession. The people's verdict, please, for Graham. And just before the news, we had a confession from Graham, which is essentially he was house-sitting at his sister's and he programmed the Alexa so that every time the doorbell went, it would say, who is it needed a poo?
Jamie?
Jamie needed a poo. I think James needs a poo. That's
James.
right. That's what it said.
Right, yeah.
Who was her other half. And, of course, that's hilarious.
It is hilarious,
The
isn't
first
it?
time and the second time.
Yeah, it's
and
still
then it's
hilarious.
annoying, but no one knows how to delete it. So, anyway, thank you very much indeed for the verdicts. Here they come.
So Colin says, forgiven. I had no idea you could do this, but I'm going to try to do the same to my brothers this weekend when I'm babysitting. Graham is a genius. Helen says, unforgiven. My smart speaker still plays Christmas music whenever anyone says good morning, and I can't work out how to stop it. So they have my sympathy. And Jane says, forgiven. Smart speakers can be awkward. With a room full of friends, I asked mine to play Love Will Tear Us Apart by Joy Division. Her response was to play varying sounds of flatulence.
Right, okay. Who knew that a smart speaker was so talented?
Oh, dear.
Okay, thank you very much indeed for the verdicts and thank you for your confessions. If you have one, you can send it to confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk.
Sounds like genius.
Sounds something that might have taken a while to guess. Anyway, so here we go with today's confession, which comes from Brian. I think it's from Brian anyway. There's an air of unpleasantness about this confession,
really?
so I think it's sort of a PG, I would think, if you need that guidance. Simon, Matt, Holly and the rest of the team, take yourself back to 1974. I was 17. Most of my mates were 17. The most important thing to a 17-year-old back then, apart from girls, was to pass your driving test and get a car. I passed my driving test 6 weeks after I was 17, as did many of my close friends. So having passed my driving test, now I needed the car. Insurance then for a new driver was expensive, but nothing like today with the crowded roads. I duly bought a Mark I Ford Cortina GT for the princely sum of £95. My dear old dad insured it under his insurance, with me as the named driver, third-party fire and theft, so happy days. After 6 months of driving, I, with my two close friends, saw an opportunity to make money by selling second-hand cars. These were the days when you could buy a legal Mark II Jaguar for under 50 quid and lots of other now classic cars such as a Vauxhall Ventura, a Cresta. I thought that was like a drink. But anyway,
Right.
a Ford Zodiac, I remember those, Humber Imperials and an Austin Cambridge. Susan, Holly, don't look at me because I couldn't describe you an Austin Cambridge.
Not a clue.
These are all classic cars and you can buy them for under 50 quid. Please remember, Simon, and the team, most of us were apprentices or trainees, with only one of my mates going to university. Wages were low. I was on £8 a week, so the thought of making an extra £10 tax-free selling cars was a no-brainer. So my two close friends, Perry and Bill, put in £10 each and we bought a Rover P6 advertised in the local paper for £25. P6 Rovers were what the police used in the 1970s, and white Rovers were traffic cars, while the blue Rovers were for crime. A useful, handy guide.
Nice.
The colour of our car was olive green and was tired, to say the least. It had a short but current MOT and only slight panel damage, so there was an opportunity to make a profit, as the leather interior was in very good condition. The car had automatic tappets. So these were not adjustable, and in our opinion was the only item that let the car down when the engine was running, because they made quite a racket. We duly put the car up for sale in the Wembley Observer for the princely sum of £75. We had a few calls, but were either the wrong side of London or too expensive. A chap then called from Acton, which is about 6 miles away. After he asked a lot of questions, including if the car had noisy tappets, we agreed on a time when he could view the potentially wonderful Rover. Perry then said that it would be a good idea if the car was warmed up so it didn't misfire under acceleration due to being cold. The car was started up, and as before, the tappets were very noisy. The oil was checked and it needed a pint or so. Not having any new oil, Bill then mentioned that his dad used to keep old engine oil in the garden for creosoting the fences. This old oil was in a blue tub from a local pharmaceutical company and didn't have a lid.
Oh, well, that sounds fine. Let's put that on the fence and in the car.
Consequently, the top of the oil was open to the elements and had all sorts of things congealed and floating in the top.
Lovely.
There was an old saucepan to the side, which Bill's dad used as a receptacle to decant the oil into jars to brush paint the garden fence panels with said oil. Perry put the saucepan into the old oil and scooped out a slurry of the darkest and thickest oil to put into the car, and we duly poured the oil into the engine. As the oil was being poured into the filler tube, a dead blackbird within the oil got stuck in the pipe and had its little legs pointing upwards. Even after 50 years, I can still see these little blackbird feet pointing to the sky. Bill then started the engine up, and Perry poked the bird into the engine with a screwdriver.
Into the engine?
Yes, into the engine.
Right. Okay, well, that's fine then.
It was dead already.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah.
And as the meat and feathers circulated around the moving parts of the engine, all of a sudden the tappets became quiet. "Switch the engine off," I yelled to Bill, which he did. Within 10 minutes of this accidental blackbird service, the chap from Acton turns up with his mate. He looked around the car, then said, "Yeah, but I bet the tappets are noisy." "Start her up," we all said, and lo and behold, the feathers and meat were doing their job as the tappets were really quiet. He tried to knock us down, but we wouldn't budge, so £75 changed hands. We each earned £10 out of the sale, and with the remainder going into the pot for the next purchase. Off he drove in our now sold Rover with super quiet tappets and meat. And from memory, we went straight down the pub to celebrate our first sale, and also not to be in if he returned with the car. So essentially and clearly, I'd like to apologise to the chap from Acton who knew his Rovers, but obviously not about shoving a blackbird into the oil filler pipe as a cure for noisy tappets. Don't try this at home.
No, definitely don't do that.
I'd also like to apologise to the blackbird, although we had nothing to do with what happened to it, and to apologise to our younger listeners who have no clue what tappets are or indeed points. I have a feeling you might not forgive, but in my defence, we were young and carefree, which is, of course, to be taken into consideration.
Oh, that was smooth.
Oh, that was one of the smoothest there.
Dear.
That was kind of like World Service. Anyway, Sister Holly.
Why?
What? Go on.
Why were they trusting a 17-year-old
Yes.
to buy a car from? What was going on in the 70s where they just trusted 17-year-olds? Oh, it's probably fine. It obviously wasn't. But yeah, it wasn't good really what they were doing, just selling these second-hand cars that were just already broken and then fixing them with a dead blackbird. Who on earth wants that? Absolutely dreadful. I feel sorry for the blackbird. I feel sorry for the chap in Acton, and that's why
Sick and
I'm
wrong.
not forgiving. It is sick and wrong.
A tappet, as I just checked, is a valve train component which converts rotational motion into linear motion.
Linear
Right.
motion.
The
We
kids
all
don't know
knew
that.
that.
Oh, you
Yes.
absolutely,
Yeah,
Holly.
yeah, I
knows
knew that.
Most commonly found in internal combustion engines.
Combustion engines, yeah,
But-
that's right.
And obviously blackbirds also work quite well with
They
them.
do, as it turns out.
Who knew? What an education
Yes,
this
good,
is,
good
Matthew.
news. I don't feel sorry for the blackbird at all. In fact, in a way, the blackbird was, helping from beyond the grave of the blackbird, wasn't it? With its use of the lubrication in the combustion engine. So I'm I'm going to forgive. I mean, and also, if you're buying a car from the paper, then, buyer beware. That's what I would say. Make
Also
sure
from
that
a
there
bunch
are
of 17-year-olds.
17-year-olds. You're buying off a 17-year-old. Make sure there's no blackbirds in the tappets would be the first thing I'd check. So for all of those reasons, I'm going to forgive.
Blackbirds in the tappets. Hey, you always have to be very, very careful of that. Okay, people's verdict, please. 61054. First word is Simon. And just before the news, today's confession from Brian from 1974. Selling as a 17-year-old, him and his mates selling a Rover P6, which had noisy tappets, which was sorted out with some slurry and a dead blackbird. It had already died. It had predeceased. So therefore, it's okay. Anyway, the people's verdict. Here we go.
Absolutely not forgiven, says Cara. That poor bird deserved a better send-off than that. I'm glad that the bird's legs still haunt them. But Chris says forgiven. The kids today will never know or appreciate the many ways of hiding a car's defect to get a sale through from someone who once papier-mâché'd a car panel. And Robin Bristol...
That's not good, and don't try this at home.
No. And Robin Bristol says forgiven. All manner of things were used to mask noisy engines back in the 70s. Stockings, for example, were excellent for silencing a noisy diff.
Is that right?
Yeah, noisy.
A noisy
diff.
what?
Noisy diff.
What's one of them?
Noisy diff. Differential? The differential?
Okay, you don't know
the crucial part of a vehicle's drivetrain.
Confessions at greatesthitsradio.co.uk. Like confession time.
Yeah.
And they come on so that it can be filmed better, is that right?
Yeah. Yes, so we look really glam and fantastic on the cameras.
And not completely washed out and old.
Squinting.
Anyway, so that means... it's quite difficult to read, which is sort of works against this feature particularly. Don't forget the New Confessions podcast will be available and downloadable from tomorrow. Make sure you subscribe and you won't miss a thing. This one today comes from Nobby. Right, okay. Father Simon, Brother Matt and Sister Lee. It's very much a period piece, this one.
Oh.
I'm writing to ask forgiveness for my naughty play friends and, of course, myself. As young children, we played on the wood green swings next to the church cemetery from dawn till dusk at weekends, holidays, and sunny, warm summer evenings. Our parents had no worries regarding our safety. This was 1970, and nothing bad ever happened in 1970, apart from the energy crisis, bell-bottom trousers, and Richard Nixon.
Okay.
And there are a few other things as well.
Yeah.
But not as far as we were concerned, because we were on the wood green swings next to the church cemetery from dawn till dusk. As we enjoyed ourselves, we would often get a bit peckish and a little thirsty. So we would stop playing and make our way down the narrow hill to the little sweet shop called Stratford's at the bottom of the hill. Once outside the shop, we were always pushing each other to be the first in the shop, as it had a very scary shopkeeper. You go in. No, you go in. You go in first. Tell us what mood he's in. So the shop was run by Mr. Stratford and his wife. Mr. Stratford was basically Captain Hook in disguise, with an enormous hook for an arm, literally, and Mrs. Stratford wore a lopsided wig with a bad temper to boot.
Wow.
So it's a little bit of J.M. Barrie and a little bit of Roald Dahl, all mixed in here. We loved the sweets, but we were very scared of the Stratfords. More often than not, we went in shaking and trembling, and as we entered the threshold, we were shouted at by Mr. Stratford. Hurry up and make your mind up, come on. What's wrong with you horrible little children?
Good voice, I like that one.
Yeah.
It always took a long time to choose what sweets to have. Sour apples, fruit salads, blackjacks, sherbet lemons, flying saucers, aniseed twists, to mention only a few. And it was 4 for a penny, 4 for an old penny. Just pointing at Holly when I say that.
4 for a penny, Holly.
Yes.
Thank you.
So you can see why it would take so long to decide. You can't make those kind of important decisions in a split second. So now, let's go forward a few days after decimalisation. So that's February 1971. We were playing as usual on the swings when some boys came up on their bikes and they shouted, "Here, chaps, you got to go down to Stratford's. We just been to Stratford's and we just been and got our sweets and everything, and we came out with more money than we went in with."
What?
Apparently, if you gave Mr. Stratford a 10p, he thought it was 50p. So for younger listeners and Holly, a pound was now 100 pence, not 20 shillings. 10 shillings was 50p, 10p was 2 shillings, and a 5p was a shilling, and not 12 old pennies as before.
Okay.
Right.
Is that clear?
Yep.
As you can imagine, we couldn't get down the hill fast enough. Picture the scene. There was literally a massive queue outside of the shop, winding all the way back up the hill. Word had spread. We went in 2 by 2. And guess what? We came out with our sweets and change from 50p, not 10p. A bag of aniseed twist, a jamboree bag and some gobstoppers. Spent 8p. We came out with 42p. Wow. We went in time after time getting fat and rich. Anyway, it took a few days before Mr. Stratford cottoned on as to what was happening, and by then he'd lost a bit of cash. But Father Simon, Brother Matt and Sister Holly, I ask forgiveness for taking advantage of this scary, grumpy old man and his wife with the wig. And he had a hook. We were only 11 years old, and all we were thinking of was lots of sweets and still retaining our pocket money. This was such a thrill. Plus getting revenge on Mr. and Mrs. Stratford. And isn't this exactly how capitalism works? So really, it's an education for everybody. Well, I'm not sure. That's a slightly controversial view, I think, at the end from Nobby. But this is decimalisation, and probably an awful lot of people got very, very confused, particularly older shopkeepers like the Stratfords. Sister Holly, do you feel magnanimous?
Yeah, so, I mean, Mr. Stratford, he does sound like a cartoon character, doesn't he? Mr. and Mrs. Stratford, sort of a hook for an arm and a bad wig on Mrs. Stratford.
Yes.
Very strange. I think he was quite rude, actually, about the two of them. I mean, I'm sure he just didn't really like having all these school children running around his sweet shop, and they might have even stolen some sweets off him. And
No,
so he
they
probably
wouldn't do that. He's just a miserable old man.
He might, but he's allowed to be miserable. You know, you get to a certain age, and it's sort of like you're kind of allowed to be a bit like that. And decimalisation is very, very confusing. I'm confused, frankly. But they ended up with more money, and I feel a bit sorry for the two of them, and so that's why I'm not forgiving this, I'm afraid.
10 shillings, 50p. 10p was 2 shillings. 5p a shilling, not 12 pennies.
There you go.
There you go. Thank you very much.
Pretty straightforward.
Yes. Matt, what do you say?
I'm going to forgive. And if you're running a shop, then maybe you should have got your, head around the whole decimalisation thing, because you had the Prime Minister was on the telly, wasn't he, telling everyone what the money was worth. Harold Wilson, Ramsay MacDonald, Lord Salisbury. One of them was on
Churchill.
the telly. One of them was on the telly saying this is how much the pennies are now. So maybe Mr. Stratford should have been paying attention, and it was all his fault in the end. How did it take days to work out? Come on, Mrs. Stratford. Yes, definitely forgiven.
For all those reasons.
For all of those reasons.
Okay, well, you completely lost me, of course. However, I don't think we've had a decimalisation-based confession, but I reckon there may well be a few more. But first of all, people's verdict, please, for Nobby. 61054. First word is Simon. Before the news, a confession from Nobby, a sweet shop confession from just before decimalisation. Everything was fine, and then afterwards when it wasn't, because the scary shop owner didn't understand what had changed, and so therefore you went in, you spent 10p, you came out with like a couple of quid, because Mr. Stratford didn't quite get it.
No, he didn't.
People's verdict is in. Here we go.
So Kat says, no forgiveness. Doesn't matter whether he was grumpy or not. He didn't understand decimalisation. That's an age thing. Shocking behaviour. But John says, forgiven. Decimalisation is so easy. 10 times 10. Who can possibly get it wrong? But Gary in Leeds says, forgiven. I remember decimalisation as a kid. A Penny McGowan's toffee chew became 1 new penny. Nearly tripled in price overnight. Gutted.
It sounds as though he hasn't got over it.
No.
And it was 1971. Okay, all right, very good. Thank you for the verdicts, and thank you for the confessions. Send them, please, to confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk.